Alright, what's up yins guys? Time for another video. I keep meaning to get around to... I always keep wanting to get around to do a video like this. Finally get around to do it. I do a lot of comments on the YouTube wall, which some people don't care, some people react to it, and there's some people, they're triggered. I'm not gonna make this video all about that, but I did address maybe a couple people that got triggered by some sarcasms that I talked about maybe some of the, I don't want to call it a far right like hypocrisy. I don't believe in people having abortions completely just at will and just go messing around with whoever you please, you know, and no protection or doing whatever. Oh, just get abortion and have the government completely paying for it. Yeah, I made remarks about the hypocrisy. Oh yeah, I bashed the hell out of the left too. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just going to say a little bit about this, how I laugh. I made comments on the YouTube wall. A couple people triggered. I said what I couldn't stand about the more conservative people who do everything and think everything by the King James Bible, but yet I advocate a lot of people, especially the black conservatives, intentionally to rebel against the people who do the race baiting, and they advocate violence and vandalism in 2020, but I digress there. I'm just going to tell you, I stick up for a lot of conservatives over people that do destructive things. But yes, I do talk about the far right and have pissed a few people off. Some people don't even care. I talk about how it's, if you're a totally King James Bible person and yeah, you're against abortion, yes, and I'm against it on a lot of situations too. I don't regard it as a fix-all, as a do what you want type of, and then just have an abortion either. But I talked about the hypocrisy. Yeah, and yes, this I do laugh if it pisses people off. I don't think it makes sense. I think it's very laughable to say you're pro-life and you're against abortion, right? And then listen, then if you're one of those people who listen to the TV preachers who seem to glorify the what I call the try not to laugh at this, the prehistoric sacrificial dogma. And yeah, I paused for quite a bit. I'm trying not to bust out laughing because I think it's funny. I call the prehistoric sacrificial dogma. If you're like a King James Bible fancy car Christian and you do more glorifying the prehistoric sacrificial dogma than you care and claim to care about Jesus Christ. And if you're one of those people who talk about the situation where Abraham hears a disembodied voice that was supposed to be God, told to sacrifice his son, and we all know the story. He didn't sacrifice, God stopped him. Some of us, I laugh, I says, some of us, like myself, believe that that wasn't God's voice. God stopped them because we all know from the very beginning, all kind of stuff. I particularly studied. I don't evangelize. Matter of fact, I have a mixture of, you want to call it a mixture of superstitions, if you will. My beliefs are a combination of Christianity and the occult, but I'm not like the YouTuber Sticks Hexenhammer 666, who I share a lot of his videos out of spite because of I agree with his politics. But anyway, my idea, like I says, I also speak I'm very against that young kids with that Aleister Crowley crap. If you want to rebel against your mommy and daddy who goes to a fancy church in front of people and then screams, swears, and chain smokes at home, and you're going to rebel against your parents by listening to that Aleister Crowley crap, I'm against that too. But my explanation why I bust out laughing, yeah, sprinkle blood on that mercy seat. There's another thing I would get into entire videos too, why we have a system of nature isn't fair, it does suck, it's sad. Why certain creatures, whether it's lions, coyotes, eat other things, and it's not fun. And there was a time where we don't have all predators anymore except each other. That's part of the fall. And my beef is that the Bible thumpers tell you what you're not allowed to read. Some people, well, there's a lot of YouTubers that advocate some of the things that I read too, or apocryphal books and Enoch books and some parts of the Key of Solomon. And there are some people who are straight King James Bible. They don't look at Enoch in the fall, but there were some very sinister times. And you got your regular Bible thumper or YouTube Christian that thinks any kind of exercise like yoga is satanic and violent. I got words for them too. My beliefs, if you want to believe in Jesus Christ, he took away some serious. Some of us, I can argue, that we have a fear, respect, more of a fear and respect for Jesus Christ than even some of the people who claim that they're Christians do, and just because they live by the King James Bible. You know, the ones that'll tell you, oh, yeah, even though you always got some asshole that'll say, oh, you believing in Jesus Christ ain't good enough. You know, the ones that you go and agree with them about a lot of things, but it's still never good enough. But I digress. But anyway, yeah, you got this far in this video. There's a lot of, different kind of Native American tribes, superstitions about beings that you shouldn't even speak about. And to be fair too, when I was a small kid, my mother went to a couple of churches, both white and black churches. I was exposed to a lot of that screaming in the air, chattering in tongues crap. But yet there was a lot of beliefs that I couldn't stand. I grew up not being able to stand. I can't stand that. But at the same time, some of their stuff about angels and demons, they go too far with it. But yet at the same time, I believe in it to a point. Some of us grew up. We find things on YouTube and documentaries about, a lot of Indian tribes believe in a lot of different beings, and they have rules against certain type of what they call witchcraft and black magic, and certain beings that in a same tongue some of Christian believes. And there's even you can even talk about there's like a lot of different things that you could talk about. I'll go way off the subject here about the belief in different kind of beings and creatures and shapeshifters. Even people that are in Africa too kind of believe in, and all over the world. There ain't just coincidences if you look at all these other type of YouTube videos. And you can do this without evangelizing or forcing a belief down anybody's throat, but being positively superstitious. And it dovetails in with your view of how the apocalypse and how financial collapse can go on, and about some of the dumbasses who think that them stupid ass Left Behind movies, that's a fact, like that's really gonna happen that way. Hell no, it's gonna be very bad. There'll be another dark ages, like the late George Carlin said in a YouTube video. Don't take much, just get rid of electricity and we'd be down in barbaric times. You go listen to that about the late George Carlin. You can say what you will about him, like he was some bad person because he didn't you can't judge what he believed and what he didn't. He was a comedian, but he said some pretty straight-side facts there. When Henry Rollins once said, in his spoken word CD that was called Everything, about bodies and dumpsters and everything. But, well, where I'm getting at with this, too, okay, the Bible thumpers and your authorities for centuries, they tailored and written and twist verses and views of the apocalypse according to their way and according to your fears and how you should speak to them. how you should think of it. And certain things you're not allowed to say here too. Yeah, they'll speak against witchcraft and certain kind of things. Well, guess what? Right in your Bible, they kind of, I regard it as they kind of whitewash it. What I want to talk about, if you got this far in this video too, the story of Moses. You want to pay attention to that one. I mean, there's parts that Bible thumping Christian is right to a point. But, and I'm not going to speak to anybody who, like, well, even if somebody don't believe in anything, if you want to believe in a story, if you want to convince somebody that don't believe in no kind of paranormal or no kind of anything, that there could be something paranormal going on, and they want you to believe in the biblically correct thing about Moses. But guess what? They whitewash it. But guess what? There was a lot of black magic and witchcraft going along, and there was a part of, if you want to call this God's plan, okay, what people neglect to say is some things were the power of God. They were sort of right, but not right. Well, geez, you know, Egypt had all these people under captivity, right? And they had all these practices and rituals and these things that they worshipped, which, if you want to believe that were real, what they worshipped and what they gave themselves over to get certain power and even military power and control over another group, right? And it was the will of so many of these groups that controlled another group of a population, you know, whether it's slaves or whatever reasons, to thin out the population. You know, it was part of their, these ritual sacrifice rituals. They'd say people were ordered to throw their babies into the sea. Or if they didn't go and just cut down and kill a bunch of people with the sword, to thin out the population, so it wasn't a strain and reason. That's when people occupied groups, they gave themselves over to these people, and they want you to be biblically correct a certain way, but damn, you say in your own way, okay, these people like Egyptians or whoever did give themselves over to a particular thing that they worshipped, and maybe it gave them power. You people get mad if you don't say it their way. Well, that dovetails into the Nephilim thing, where all kind of things were black magic and different things there. And okay, Moses, well, when he was saved as a baby, that particular way infiltrated him. If you want to say a God that you want to believe in had a sense of humor, they kill all these babies because they want to thin the population. Well, geez, people sacrificed babies. All these cultures all over the place were sacrificing babies and doing all kind of killings or whatever, conveniently to thin the population too, so they can do whatever the hell they want. It don't matter if the actually cult leader believed in that or not. And of course he did. I think they did gave themselves over to something, and something did give them some power for a period of time, which they would lose when their time's up later. But anyway, yeah, they kill all these babies to thin the population, so it's not straining resources. And they do it for all their other reasons too, and they want to make sure that no other chosen one. Well, if you want to skip over, same way King Herod was trying to get rid of Jesus, figure they can wipe out a chosen one, and he figured he'd thin the population at the same time, right? And all these leaders, I don't care where it was, even King Herod, they were giving themselves to something else, and not the Most High God like these people want to worship. Okay, but if you say it, don't say it their way, you're wrong. But anyway, Moses, well, all that happened, right? He was, put in a little, what do you call it, so he'll float, and then he was coincidentally taken in and allowed to keep the baby, raised under Pharaoh, right? Well, what was Moses raised as, and what did he think he was all his life? Well, even when you watch the Charlton Heston movie and the late Yul Brynner played Ramses, he thought he was raised as an Egyptian. And when he was an Egyptian, he was around all that Egyptian magic, right? Which he was able, since he was raised in there, and in his own way, you want to say infiltration as a baby, if you want to say it's God's will, right? All the things he later did, turn a staff into a snake, and that little duel with those other magicians, that was Egyptian magic. He turning it back on them, right? And all the plagues that, he said, let my people go, and all these plagues, right? And if you got this far in this video, an interesting thing, the Book of Jubilees, which was a better version of Genesis and Exodus, and it also, unlike the Book of Genesis, which only briefly talks about the Nephilim, the Book of Jubilees also talks more detail about Enoch and all that too, which I digress. But it also had a better version of Moses there. And when you got to the part where, okay, all the firstborn died, all the firstborn of Pharaoh and Egypt died, well, a very interesting version that Jubilees offers of that thing that took place says it's slightly different. It said, quote, and all the powers of Mastema were released to kill the firstborn of Pharaoh. And then you would have to look up Prince Mastema, which is another name going on there. So the name Prince Mastema was, I guess, behind a lot more things, which your King James Bible doesn't say. The King James Bible says a whitewashed version of something to make it not sound so black magic-y or occultish or occulty. But the reality is, oh yeah, if you want to look at even other things like the Book of Enoch, it was witchcraft. It was a bunch of witchcraft. That's why a lot of us would you can believe in Jesus Christ, and you have a right to dispute and say your own, I don't want to say your own interpretation, an alternative interpretation of what went down, which is more of the truth. All the powers of Mastema were released to kill the firstborn of Pharaoh. I mean, it's indicating that there was a lot more black magic and witchcraft going on right up into the fall, and then then later on you're getting into the books of Enoch, where Enoch knew Noah when he was a baby. Lamech was scared to death of him. His skin was white as snow, and Enoch says, oh yeah, don't worry, yeah, he's going to build an ark and all that, and he got more, and Noah got all kind of instruction. More instruction than from Enoch than the King James Bible actually says. But yeah, you're getting into a lot of the Enoch stuff. And while I'm at it too, if you want to believe in Enoch and all the things about the giants, which a lot of us believe in, and you hear all the Native American lore about the giants, and then you want to throw into parentheses all these Native American tribes that certain things that you shouldn't even speak. They had black magic and evil beings that certain behaviors would draw them. And they believed in the red-haired giants that actually was taken and eaten their bodies or whatever too. And people finding more of them skeletons than they're letting on, and they're hiding them in Smithsonian, hiding them. But anyway, yeah, there was you would also if anybody that younger people actually happen to see this that are into their anime, I say this in joking as an opinion, you would wonder, say if you wanted to believe that the Nephilim came down, made the giants, and then there was all these angels with all these powers too, before the giants, you would wonder, okay, if in the days of Enoch, if you had some beings, if you will, similar to Lord Shoshomer, the evil Lord Shoshomer, running around or something, because you can connect the Nephilim and the angels that come down with, I don't know, Chinese, Japanese, all these, like martial arts, the early days of martial arts and swords, and the idea that the invention of crucible steel was around, and then it got lost, and then it was rediscovered again. And this is just stuff that I'm throwing out there, a short version of stuff. But yeah, you would have to believe, well, geez, maybe like things like Lord Shoshomer were running around, and something taught people how to make swords and knives and daggers and weapons of war, and taught magic spells. And you would also have to believe that whether it's in your Inuyasha anime, there was some kind of bizarre creatures flying and running around, or any other kind of movies or animated you see. I mean, that you want to say the Nephilim was creating hybrid creatures that are part human. Well, there are some people who are connecting that with aliens too, but that's another story. I'm not saying for sure with that. The closest thing I would talk about is if people want to connect that with aliens, ancient aliens. I had this thing that I said jokingly too, where you had people that believed in all this stuff, that actually believed that hell wasn't under earth, that there was a hell and there was these evil demons that lived in space somewhere, in some other area in space, right? And jokingly, nobody brings this up, and it would be fun to look at, like, say you saw the movie The Chronicles of Riddick. Before you looked at all the trivial stuff about the making of it and what it was inspired by, all the costumes and all that, if you would wonder, like, they're wearing armor, you got to wonder if the people that created, instead of talking about ancient aliens like everybody else has done, if you ever watched the Chronicles of Riddick, you'd wonder, okay, there's some people who believe these demons and these bad angels lived on other planets or whatever, and they come and world enders, and they're doing stuff. And like shapeshifters, and they had superhuman abilities. And well, there was people, these angels they call seraphim, with all these faces and all that. And you got to wonder if the people that created Riddick, if you want to just not look at the totally correct trivial stuff about it, ironically, the bad guys, the necromongers, had these armor and these helmets, right, that had face here, a face here, a face in the back of the head, and then the mask here. Well, you got creatures like seraphim that claimed that supposedly had human heads, and eagles' heads, and lions' heads, and heads of whatever animals. And you see these other drawings, right, a couple versions of the drawings that look like that they're faded into each other around like this. And you had other pictures that looked more lame, that was like on the shoulder, a head here, a head here. I would be more inclined to think it would be closer to, like, if it, say, taught people how to make helmets and armor, say, like similar to necromongers and all that. Well, you look at all these Japanese armor, Japanese, Chinese armor, and armor all over the world. Some of them have masks and had well, a lot of the originals don't survive, except for those classic ones you see, which everybody wore. But I mean, what the people were thinking about when they make movies. But yeah, you wonder if something from somewhere else came down, taught people how to make weapons. But yeah, you're getting into aliens type of things, but that's a whole other thing. But my point, it adds to the imagination. I'm getting a little off the subject there, because I was basically talking about how technically your Old Testament and Abrahamic things there were sacrificing and sprinkling blood on altars. It was mankind was deceived thinking they were doing it for God when they were actually doing it for something else. Well, and there's a lot of different kind of Bible thumpers and Christians that say that in so many words. It depends who you talk to, but yeah, people get pissed off if you don't say it their way. But there's a standard way you're expected to believe, or else you would be ostracized by your peers and called all kind of names and everything like that. Well, back in the day when, like it says, Jesus Christ was supposed to took away all the prehistoric sacrificial dogma, just took that completely away, and all cultures in the area once after the crucifixion, all these cultures, right, they were all making big money selling the animals for sacrifice, more than the meat packing industry of the day, right? And along with the what you want to say historically and biblical correct versions of what was going on, they were all threatened by the spread of Christianity because it was killing their ability to make big money. But then later on, they just found another hustle, and they just got everybody to convert, give you money or give them money or whatever the hell, get them to convert. Then you had the Roman Catholic Church, which was burning anybody who was caught being Protestant, hanging or burning people alive. You had your Dark Ages and all that stuff, all that historically or biblically correct stuff going on. But yeah, originally, so after it was the prehistoric sacrificial dogma was done away with, it didn't solve anything. You still had the Inquisitions and all of that other crap before the world civilized somewhat up until this day, which you have more civilized version of these idiots, in a form of television religion, in the form of the Vatican, and they all want you to only one way you're allowed to believe this stuff. Yeah, and you got the very leaders themselves, or could be masters of the very witchcraft that they condemn other people for. Like a lot of them. What do you think a lot of these people that claim to be of God and they're given all this money and power, they're doing it by, and back in the day too, you could say they gave maybe they gave themselves over to something else, pretending to be God. Well, also back in the days, the early days of Protestantism in this country, the United States, or even before that, the masses were mostly illiterate. You can tell them almost anything and they'll be scared for their soul, along with, if they weren't scared for being burned at the stake or exiled or hanged or whatever the hell they did, and cut your head off and everything else. But I got into a very mixed bunch of topics, but